Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to episode number 5 on the Flip Your Life podcast.
What's going on, everybody?
What up, what up, what up? Cool beans, man. So, just continuing the conversation here. We're on part 2 on Driving for Dollars. And dude, you are a rock star when it comes to driving for dollars and scaling that. So, I'm going to let you kind of
Absolutely,
lead
dude.
a lot of this part 2 conversation on that. Which is I'm excited to maybe learn some even more things from you, man. You just freaking crush it with Driving for Dollars. So
Well, dude, last time we talked, driving for dollars is my bread and butter. It's where I started. It's where, even to this date, we did, I think 70, 75 deals last year. And I would say 70 to 75% of those were driving for dollars leads. The
wow,
reason I
that's
like
crazy.
yeah, man, the reason I like driving for dollars is because not only is it a inexpensive way to get leads, but I think the leads are a lot better quality than what you can get from a pooled list, right? So the best thing about driving for dollars is if you have a driver out there or you're out driving yourself, you have physical eyes on the property. So you know that there's some sort of physical distress. So it's not like just going into PropStream or Batch Leads or List Source somewhere and just pulling a list of 5,000, 10,000 names that,
Right.
yeah, on paper we know they're an absentee owner, we know that it has a certain amount of equity and whatnot, but we don't know if that property is being taken care of. And if, for us, when we're driving around and we set eyes on the property, if that property is in immaculate condition, we see a lot of pride of ownership. There's probably little chance that that person's going to want to sell, right? So we just go on by it. Whereas if we see the physical signs of distress, maybe there's a tarp on the roof, the windows are boarded up, there's a window HVAC unit, right? Or just grass has grown up, there's stuff everywhere, there's a gutter falling off, just those signs of that the property is not being taken care of, there isn't a pride of ownership. More than likely it's going to be either one, an absentee owner property, so there's probably a tenant living there, and tenants hardly ever take care of the property the way that the owner does. Or it's going to be an owner occupied property, but maybe they can't afford to take care of it. There's some type of situation going on where they're drowning, whether they're drowning financially, or they can't take care of it physically. But there's a sign there that either there's a need to sell the property, or if we look in like an elderly situation case, where that person's very soon going into a assisted living home, or moving in with a child or some type of family member, and that property is going to have to be sold regardless. So I just look at Deal Machine. Deal Machine is actually the software that we use, but I look at Driving for Dollars leads as probably the best leads out there. And then the other thing is too is nobody has that exact same list as your Driving for Dollars list, right? Unless somebody just came behind you and stole it. So it's a unique list to you. And
Yeah.
chances are there's going to be a good chance that you're going to be one of the first couple people to reach out to people on that list. And they might not have been reached out by other wholesalers that have just pulling lists off of List Source or PropStream or Batch Leads. So that's the main reason why I like Driving for Dollars is it's just a unique list.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just to, not have to repeat everything you just said, because I mean, that is just like, I mean, you just touched all the points. Just to add, like, I think another perspective too to see is that it really allows you to go level 2, level 3 with some of these leads that you're, really looking at. What I mean by that is, level 1 is kind of talking to that seller and having a conversation, but level 2 is like, what other deals can you get from that same conversation? And one of the things, is if you're talking to a seller and maybe they're not interested in selling this property, a great question is like, well, do you have anything else that you'd be interested in selling? And you can go to another property. But the cool thing about Driving for Dollars is not only can you go like level 2 with that same seller, sometimes even with the neighbors. So literally just, a couple weeks ago when I was telling you, literally I have an opportunity this month actually, because I remember I'm following back up with them this month as we're at the beginning of April, is I was driving for dollars, and there was a house that looked a little vacant and had all the signs of something as an opportunity. And I like to just go knock on the door. A lot of times I'll just go and knock on the door because I want to try and be as direct as possible. Now, if you're obviously scaling and driving for dollars, the goal is to just get as many deals that you can, so you can go back and pull that and have that specific list. But sometimes I just I don't know, I'm very personable. Again, you guys, you want to leverage your strengths as much as possible, because at the end of the day, if if I pulled a list and then I had someone calling on that list, there's someone on the other end of the phone, but that seller doesn't see them. Now, of course, you can get really good at building rapport and things like that, and that works. Obviously, people are doing deals. I do deals. Obviously, Vaughn's doing a ton of deals, but there's still that really unique experience that no one else, if they have some other VA in the Philippines, or if they have some caller from some other state, or just even if they're in the same state but they're just calling from their bedroom, but you're right there on their front steps and they can see your face, you can shake a hand, and maybe that seller who owns that property is actually not that property, because if it's distressed and it's vacant, there's obviously no owner there. But sometimes, depending on how distressed that property is, sometimes there's people that are potentially just at the house and maybe still looking to sell at some point, or I don't know, whatever the case may be. But I just knew, like, let me get out of my car and kind of look at this property, maybe knock on the door, maybe somebody's there to. Sometimes I'll even do that just to confirm that maybe someone does live there, because sometimes you think a property is
Yeah.
vacant, and you'll be surprised what kind of homes people live in. So I literally got out of my car and I went to the door and I knocked and no one answered. And I was just kind of like, I don't know, I was a little confused of whether someone lived there or didn't, right? Because it looked pretty vacant, honestly, and there was some distress. There's some signs that I know that are kind of like minute, but that typically can kind of tell that someone wasn't really keeping up with it. But there was like this
Yep.
old vehicle in the back of the house. Now that doesn't automatically mean someone lives there. Sometimes people will leave a vehicle just because they're trying to stray away from people, thinking that the house is vacant. Sometimes it's just a trash vehicle and it's just there. But one of the ways that I like to verify what's going on with a property is go knock on the neighbor's door. And it is one of the
Yep.
best ways for you to not only get direct information from the seller. There are deals. If you drive for dollars and you skip trace it, you don't get the number of that owner. But because you were talking to the neighbor next door and they just happen to know that person and they got their cell phone number, I can't tell you how many times it's happened where I've gotten some direct information literally from the neighbor. But again, the reason I'm bringing this up is the neighbor. I had a conversation with the
Yep.
neighbor, and the neighbor, his story is crazy. He moved from California. He bought a house behind that house, and that house was too small. So he got this bigger house, which is right next to the one that I was driving dollars for. But then he realized he kind of doesn't want this house anymore, and he doesn't want two houses because he put a tenant in the other one, and that tenant is
Yep.
actually going to be leaving. And he said he doesn't want two homes. There's no need for him to have two homes, and he doesn't want to be a landlord. So he said he's absolutely going to sell one of these. He doesn't know exactly sure, but he thinks he's just going to move back to the other one. And we had such a great conversation. We talked about him getting baptized, him moving from California, and him changing his faith, and having all that. Dude, we just had such a great conversation that he literally texted me. He's like, "Hey man, when that tenant leaves, and I make my decision on where I'm going, I'll hit you up, and we can revisit on what I'm doing." And bam, there's a freaking opportunity that not any other person
Absolutely.
is going to get, because he's not a vacant distressed. He's just a human being in a house. But because I got out of my car and knocked on the door, it was a great opportunity. So anyway, Vaughn's going to talk a ton about scaling and the power of it. But I just want to throw in another aspect, guys, that you can do those kind of things when you're out on the road. Like Vaughn said, I mean, you're in the
Yeah.
car, you're in front of these houses. You can get really creative and find lists that no one else can find, and talk to people that no one else is talking to.
And that's a good point because when I say driving for dollars, yeah, we're out driving. I have a team of drivers, but there's going to be situations where you need to get out and you need to knock on the door, right? And if it's a hot lead and a hot zip code, and you're like, man, I need to get this house, but you can't trace that person. It comes back with no number. It comes back with no email address. You have to go be proactive and go knock on the door, knock on the neighbor's door, and guess who always knows what's going on? The nosy neighbor, right?
Cozy neighbors.
The nosy neighbor, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
but, for us, because we do a lot of volume,
Right,
we
right.
strictly, for the most part right now, do driving. Our guys don't get out of their cars. But, we're actually about to get a little bit more targeted this year with pre-foreclosures, right? So in
Yeah.
pre-foreclosures, it's a smaller list. We can pull that list and then and we're going to talk about the technology here in a minute, but actually I can actually take that list, whether I pull that list from Batch Leads or PropStream or list source, drop it in my Driving for Dollars app, and then send my drivers directly to those houses to get pictures. And let's just go into the software. Like we like to use Deal Machine, and I'm a big
Yeah, deal
proponent of Deal
machine.
Machine, big
Oh yeah.
advocate. I've been using Deal Machine for about 3.5 years now, and the reason I like Deal Machine is because I require my guys to go out and take physical pictures of every property, right?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people do virtual driving for dollars and they take Google Street Pics and whatnot. But there's so many other platforms out there that you can just pull a list and start sending out Google Street Pic postcards. But when Deal Machine sends postcards out, it has a physical picture, like real time photo of the property that goes out. And that's
Yep.
what separates our postcards from everybody else is the fact that let's use this scenario for chance, right? Let's say you're owner of a rental property. You live 3 hours away. Maybe that's in another state, and you've had this rental property for 4 years, right? And just because life happens and things get in the way, you haven't had a chance to get out and see that property in 2 years. Well, next thing you know, you get a postcard in your mailbox and it says, "Is this your property? I want to buy it." And you look at that picture a little bit closer and you're like, "Man, that is my property. It looks nothing like what it looked like when I bought it 4 years ago. It's been trashed." And what are you thinking now? Is one, my property looks like crap. Two, the tenants have trashed my property. And then three, I got to do something about this. And that means I
Right.
need to either go down to, drive 3 hours away, go have a conversation with the tenant, more than likely evict the tenant, fix the property up, and then rent it out again, right?
Right.
Or you got to call a property manager. If you do have a property manager, call them, have them take care of it, evict the tenants, fix it up. That's still an investment. You had to go invest more money into that property. Or three, hey, I'm done with this property. I'm tired of being a landlord, which is what we see time and time again, the tired landlord, and they would rather cash out, take the money that they're going to get from the property now and sell it at a discount because it needs to be fixed up. The tenants need to be evicted. So they're
Right.
willing to take that hit rather than put in their time because time is more important than money, right?
Right.
So they'll much rather sell the property for a discount and sell it fast and get rid of the problem than spend their time to go fix it up, deal with problem tenants, and then put the property back on the market and be a landlord again.
Right.
So that's what the power of Driving for Dollars using the Deal Machine app and taking real time photos of the actual properties does for us. And we hear it time and time again that somebody might have 6, 7, 10 postcards sitting on their kitchen counter, but ours is the one that stood out because somebody took the time to drive by their property.
Right.
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 On the other end of that, you're going to get people pissed off saying, "Hey, who gave you permission to take a picture of my property?" I'm like,
Right.
well, if you're pissed off at me, you got to be pissed off at Google too, because all of Google's
Right.
free
Right.
picture.
That's a great
Um,
answer.
yeah, yeah, right. So it's for us, the software that we use, the app that we use is Deal Machine, and Deal Machine has been in the game for a long, long time. And
Yeah, they know it.
for me, yeah, they're superior over the other ones that are out there right now just
Yep.
because of all the features that they have.
Right. Right.
And I could talk for a couple podcasts about the features that they have in Deal Machine and how to set it up. But yeah, it's definitely for me the superior platform if you're going to be doing Driving for Dollars.
Same, same. And guys, and just remember too, what we're trying to do is give you guys all the information of how you can maximize the opportunity with driving for dollars. But notice when I'm saying like getting out of the car and doing things like that, yeah, like Vaughn's right. Like, dude, I don't. That's not something I'm doing all the time. If anything, I had a driver who was driving around and adding properties, and it's about volume and numbers. What I'm saying is just look at all the opportunities. You can do both, right? So hire a team, and we're going to talk about. I'd love to dive into some of these numbers on because I'm sure some people are listening. Okay, I get the idea, the concept. I can have someone drive it, but like, how do I pay this person? How do I,
Mhm.
what does it look like, to find someone? What are the types of people that typically like to do this, et cetera, et cetera? We'll get into that, but the goal is that you could scale maybe, and you don't even need to scale like insanely like from the beginning. I mean, just one person is so huge to where your time is going that you could have these leads being added to your pipeline, one person out there, and then you can scale from there. But just remember, you can still, while you're out and about, I call it driving with a purpose, right? Where maybe you're headed to the a ball game, maybe you're headed to the grocery store, maybe you're headed to pick up your kids, or maybe you're headed to whatever it is. Just keep your eyes open, because you can drive for dollars at any moment, at any time. Driving for dollars doesn't have to be this specific action you take when you're at work and the clock's running. You're always, honestly, I'm always driving for dollars. Anywhere I'm going, my eyes are open, and sometimes I'll see a house, and my wife loves it too. We'll be in the car, and we'll just pull over, and we'll actually take the Deal Machine app, and we'll go ahead and look at some information, and sometimes we'll call the seller literally right then and there, because you can skip trace some of these properties right then and there. Well, really, you can skip trace any
Absolutely.
property through the
Yeah.
app right then and there. But sometimes we'll go ahead and just do it right then and there and try and see if we can have a conversation, because everything is about speed when it comes to this business. If it's not you talking to that seller, someone else will be talking to that seller, and maybe they're not ready to sell, but whoever's following up, whenever they are, again, it's whoever's on the phone with that seller at the time that they're ready to call. So I like to just go ahead and make that phone call. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
man,
that's the
I'd
that's
love
the
to.
power. Yeah, I was gonna say that's the power of the Deal Machine app is that you can skip trace right then and there while you're in front of the property. And also, let's say you
Yep.
skip trace it, you call that owner or the owner of the property, the seller, and you don't get in touch with them. Well, the next thing you can do is if you can't get in touch with them, then
Yep.
you can send the postcard straight there in the app. Like while you're sitting
Yep.
in the car,
Yep.
you can have a postcard go
Oh
to the
yeah.
mailing house and get sent to the property. So within a day or two, you're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
have a postcard hit their mailbox or the owner's mailbox with a picture of their property, which is pretty
Yep.
unique.
Oh yeah. Now, again, guys, you'll hear me say a lot of these things because, again, I'm just kind of adding a different perspective because, we want to give you guys all the different mindsets and concepts and things that you can kind of do to get creative. I like to do really at the beginning of my career. I don't do as much of that today, obviously. But again, if you're starting off, dude, do those things. And what I mean by that, Gary Vaynerchuk, if any of you guys know that, he's an incredible entrepreneur. And one of the things that him and I both agree on is a lot of times you should do what you can't scale early on because it really will
Yep.
get you to where you are scaling faster. And what I mean by that is, you know, it's funny. Vaughn's like, if you skip trace it and you can't find the number, which is so true, or at least the numbers come up, but it doesn't connect you to the seller, you could even send a postcard right then there. And that's true too. But here's the crazy thing. Sometimes I'll even go a step further because it has the mailing address of that seller, right? Or the owner of that property. Now, you guys can call me crazy, but I'm telling you, I've actually had a few deals and opportunities because of doing this. I will literally go drive to the person's house. Usually, if it's their mailing address, that's where they're receiving mail. It's their personal home. Now, you might be wondering, well, dang, how am I like? What do I say if I go to their personal home? And I'm about to tell you guys because I do this, and I'm telling you, it's not as scary as you think, right? So what I'll do is I'll actually literally drive to the personal home, and I'll go knock on the door. A lot of times there's a car there because they're actually living there, right? And I'll go knock on the door, and if they answer, I just first of all, just super kind, super personable. Hey, I'm so sorry. And a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll step back, right? So I'll knock on the door, I'll ring the doorbell. I'm giving you guys the detailed nitty gritty. I'm telling you, this is how I do
Oh
this.
yeah.
I'll knock on the door, I'll hit the doorbell, but then I'll take a couple steps back. Give it, especially COVID. That is still a little bit of that season. Give them a little bit of respect. So I'll take a step back, and then they might open the door, and then what I'll say is, hey, I don't mean to take up a lot of your time, but I was actually driving around and I saw this house that was really, really interesting, and I'm looking for my next fix and flip project, or I'm looking for my next home to purchase. That's all you have to say. I'm looking for and it doesn't have to be, I'm looking for my next house to live in. I'm looking for, my house to, wholesale. It doesn't matter. You're being honest. You're just telling them you're looking for your next project. It's a project, it's a house. I'm just looking for my next house to purchase. I'm looking for my fix and flip project or my next project. And I was really interested in your home, and I just kind of looked up at some of the public records, and it said that you own this property. So didn't want to be too creepy or anything like that, but I'm just really interested in it and just kind of curious if you were, maybe open to selling. What's the worst that they can say? I'll tell you. I probably won't tell you in English, or I won't tell you all the words, but they can say, "Get the F off of my lawn. Who are you?" Da da da. And then guess what? You get in the car, never see them again. Life moves on, right? I think we get
And
so
what's important
afraid of the worst case scenario.
Yeah, what's important with what Miles just said there is like make sure that when you're knocking on this door that you preface why you're there before just getting into, hey, I
Oh
know
yeah.
you own this property at 123 Main Street. Tell them, who you are, why you're there, how you found
Yep.
the address, why you're standing on their doorstep, and answer their questions before they even ask them, right? So if you
Oh yeah.
preface the whole
Exactly.
conversation with that information, it lets they'll let their guard down a little bit because they're not
Yep.
defensive, like who the hell are you and why are you standing on my doorstep? You're
Right.
answering those
Right.
questions
Right.
really before you get into the conversation. So that's very important, man. And
Yeah.
with driving for dollars,
Oh
like
yeah.
it's with any platform out there right now, it's so easy to find information on who the real owner of the property is, what their mailing address is. All that stuff is public record. So, the softwares that we
Yep.
use to find that is
Exactly.
we can go anywhere and get in touch with the seller for the most part. But yeah,
Yeah.
with Deal Machine, man, and driving for dollars, it's important that we set the systems up to be something that's scalable because honestly, right now
Yep.
I don't do any driving for dollars, right? At least not,
Yeah.
going out and intentionally driving for dollars. I'll pick up properties
Right.
on the
Same.
way
Same.
home, while I'm out and about and whatnot. I see that property that,
Right.
has my head on the swivel and I'm like, ooh, that's a good deal right there.
Exactly.
But without doing
Same.
any intentional driving for dollars myself, we're still averaging 500 to 600 properties a week added to our database through driving for dollars. And that's because I have an entire system created around it, and I got a team, and they get compensated very well.
Yeah.
And guys, I know we're limited on time on this one, but if you're listening to this, reach out to us. Reach out to me, Vaughn Bethell, on Facebook. Just message me, and I'll be happy to talk to you about our Driving for Dollars system. You can email me at vaughn@reijunkies.com. But yeah, it's important that you set up a system surrounded or around Driving for Dollars if it's something that you want to scale. If you set that system up correctly, you can add hundreds, if not thousands, of properties to your database every single week, and that'll significantly
Yeah.
scale your business.
Yeah, and let's just real quick talk about just a few things. We don't have to go in super depth, but just like I mean, even just because when I was thinking about scaling, my biggest question was like, man, what do I pay someone, right? Like if they're adding a house, it seems weird to pay them like $2 or $3, but then you think about, but man, if they're adding like 500, I mean, I could really blow some money here, like crazy, like super quick. So what is it, for someone getting started, maybe touch on two things, I guess, like or actually three. Where do you find what are the type of people that would want to get on the road, to actually even do something like this? And then B, what's probably a good starting point of what you're paying them for a new person? Not maybe Vaughn is, he's like Rick Ross right now. No, I'm just kidding. But someone getting started, what should they maybe think about paying? And then maybe even just get real detail, like see like what do you pay them every week they're done? Do you pay them every 2 weeks? Maybe just once a month? Like how does that work?
Dude, I'll tell you what I do, and this is, by no means a, "Hey, black and white, this is how you do
Right.
it, no questions asked." You have to do what works for you. But for me, for
Right.
my drivers, I pay a $1 per approved lead. And so,
Nice.
basically with Deal Machine, they have certain criteria that you can put in, and that's the cool thing about Deal Machine and the software that they have is that if I say, "Hey, I'm only going after absentee owners that has this amount of equity. Let's say it's like 30% or more equity. Property values are under $300,000, and I stack a couple different filters on there, and I put that into the Deal Machine software. When my drivers go out, they select that filter, and it's going to highlight the parcels on the map that reach those criteria on paper. So all they got to do is drive directly to that property and see if there's any physical sign of distress. So with my guys, it has to be an approved property, meaning that it fits our criteria on paper. There's physical sign of distress, and then another, qualification for approved property is it has to be a picture that I won't, as a person, get embarrassed of, or my business won't get embarrassed of. Because there's times when you could be out there and I'm sending a postcard out that has my picture on it, but then the picture it's blurry or it's sideways, or my fingers in the picture, or somebody's fingers in the picture. The car mirrors in the picture. There's a whole
No
bunch of different
selfies. No
things, man. That
selfies.
some yeah, no selfie. If the picture's going out on a postcard with with my picture or business logo on that postcard, if I'm going to be embarrassed about that picture, it's not going to get approved by my office manager. So those are other things that disqualify pictures or properties from being from us paying for that lead. So $1 per property looks kind of like this. If my full-time driver right now adds about let's say 500 to 600 properties per week. So if he adds 500 properties this week, and then on Monday, my office manager goes in and she's either qualifying or disqualifying properties, the biggest things that she's looking for are those, disqualifications. Do they fit the criteria on paper? Is it a good picture that we don't mind sending out on a postcard? And let's say right now we're averaging about 10% of the properties that get submitted to Deal Machine for us gets disqualified. So if he adds 500 properties this week, you know, 450 of them are going to be qualified to go through to the next level. And what we mean by go through to the next level is either send a postcard or add it to our SMS texting campaign or cold calling texting campaign. So if I'm paying $1 per approved property, that's 450 bucks a week that my driver's making. That's not too shabby, right? So,
That's
you're
pretty
talking about
nice.
$2,000 a month. And that's not doesn't even include if they're in our consistent driving for dollars team, meaning that they're consistently adding properties on a weekly basis, monthly basis. Then we also have a bonus plan in place for them as
I was
well,
gonna
which
say, do you
has
guys do bonuses?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We have three different tiers. So our first tier is if they're adding at least 50 properties a week or 200 properties a month consistently, then if one of their deals that they add to Deal Machine closes, they get 1% of the deal profit. So let's say if they've added 200 properties last month, and this month one of their deals that they've added to Deal Machine closes, they'll get an extra $100 for that property if it brings in $10,000 a month for that deal profit. That makes sense. Now, if they're adding 400 properties a month or more, they bumps them up to 2% of the deal profit. And if they're adding 800 properties or more per month, that bumps them up into the third tier, which is 3% of the deal profit. So if they're adding 800 properties or more a month, and let's say 4 of their deals close this month, right, at a 3% deal profit, well, guess what? That's an extra $1,200 plus the $800 a
Nice.
month that they're getting minimum. So my guy adds about
Yeah.
500
There.
properties a week. He's getting about $2,000 a month just for driving, and then he's on a 3% deal profit bonus structure. So he's making
Wow.
decent
That sounds
money.
like he's taking us out to chop house or some sushi or something. That's some
I know,
good money
right?
right there. I love it.
Right? Oh yeah. So it's
That's cool.
but that's just what I do. Like I said, that's by no means a
Right. Right.
hey,
Right.
black and white. This is how you
Yeah.
should do it. You got to set it up for what works for you.
Right.
And so, a
Right.
couple other
Yeah.
things. People always ask me where to find drivers. Look for people that are already out
Yeah.
there driving right now and that aren't happy with the money that they're
Exactly.
making. So so look at
Yeah.
your Uber drivers, your
Uber,
Lyft drivers,
Lyft. Oh yeah.
DoorDash, Bite Squad, Instacart. These are all people that are already out driving and they're driving for a living. So
Yep.
if you introduce them to your Driving for Dollars program, maybe they'll have an opportunity to make more money more consistently. So it's all about just getting the word out there and then putting, the best thing with Deal Machine too, the Deal Machine platform is they have a complete onboarding system and recruiting system that you can take advantage of in the software.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not hard, right? It's not hard. It's not easy. It's simple. You just got to do the work.
Right. Right.
And I'm talking about looking for drivers. So you just got to, and like everybody on this that's listening to this call, I mean, you just got to know where to go, what to do, and how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Miles are sitting here trying to do on this podcast is giving you as many action items or as many action steps that you can take from this call and go out and just implement right away and start bringing leads in.
Yeah. No, I love it. Man, absolutely amazing, man. If you guys aren't getting value out of this, I mean, dude, come on. That is crazy. So, I mean, that was one of my biggest struggles is like when I was going to hire someone because I was like, man, there's no way I could just keep, it takes time being on the road and adding these properties. And I had leads that I needed to work on and I didn't want to keep being in the car. So I needed to scale. And I was like, but man, where do I find that person? And that's exactly what I thought. Why don't I just use someone who's already out doing what I need them to do, which is being in the car and driving. It's not going to, they're not going to change anything about their work life I mean, they're already in the car. Now they can just add this to what they're doing. So that's great. But then I was like, man, what do I pay them, man? I feel like this can get expensive. $5 seems like pretty low to be like, oh, you're going to get paid $5. But when you really add it up and you have bonuses and you have things like that, dude, they have the opportunity to really make some like full-time kind of income, like it's thousands of dollars a month. And it's literally just finding deals that are pretty much laid out for them. Hey, this is what we're looking for. You just go to that house and take a photo of it. They're not underwriting the deal. They're not analyzing, negotiating. I mean, it's a great opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
But
My
guys,
driver, my driver's probably averaging, $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Easy.
amazing, 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 amazing. So, guys, and here's a cool thing. I'm gonna give, dude. If there's somebody listening right now, like, man, I'm trying to get into real estate investing, wholesale, but I don't really have any money. Guys, how about you go be that person for an investor? How about you go find an investor and say, hey, can you pay me $1 per property? I'll go out and drive, and I'll go out and get out. So then you could start making. You don't have to do it for a long term, but imagine for the next, 30 days, you pull in $2,000 or $1,000 looking for distressed properties. There's a lot of benefits. A, you just got paid $1,000 that could go towards you skip tracing, calling leads and building your business. But B, you just looked at how many properties to practice what to look for when it comes to distressed properties. I mean, dude, you were on the road in the field. So, I mean, you're getting real hands on experience, working with an investor, telling you, this is what is approved, this is what's not, this is what we're looking for. So you start to learn what exactly these distressed properties are looking like, and, what to look for and things like that. And, it's a great opportunity for you to get started as well as go add value to another investor, for sure.
Absolutely. And
So,
yeah, one more thing I added in there. You asked me, and I didn't touch base on it, but how frequently should you pay them? Well, I think definitely starting
oh
out,
yeah,
if you're hiring multiple drivers or they're not sure that this works and all that good stuff, so maybe they have some skepticism, you definitely got to pay them weekly, right? Because especially the way
yeah.
gas prices are right now, you don't be wanting to wait 2 weeks or once a month, and they can't even go out and drive because
Right,
they can't
right.
can't put gas in their car. So you want to make sure that they have enough money to put gas in their car and that they can, put food on the table, right? So and that brings me to
Right,
another thing.
right,
People
right.
say, well, do you pay mileage? I don't pay mileage because $1 per property, if they're
Yeah,
adding, let's say 40, 50 properties an hour, that's plenty enough to cover gas, right? So, and if you're doing
oh
it right,
yeah, oh yeah,
if you're setting up the system correctly, which is very important, you're telling them where to go drive, and they're just not out there driving aimlessly, which you should be telling them where to drive. You're taking all
yeah,
that, guesswork off the table, and $1 per property plenty to cover their gas, put food on the table,
yeah.
and leave a lot of money in their pocket at the end of the day. So pay
Right.
your
And
drivers
and
weekly.
if you really want to take it to the next level, you could also go get a Tesla for your drivers, so they don't have to worry about gas, and just invest in the business that way too.
Yeah,
That's
go
the
ahead and
next
do
level.
that.
You're gonna start seeing you're gonna start seeing REI junkie Teslas driving around here in Greenville, and then all over the country. Vaughn's gonna take over the world with this driver dollars team. It's gonna be crazy.
Anytime soon. Cool, man. Well,
That's
cool. Yeah, like I
awesome.
said, I know.
Well, let's take
Yeah,
about 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, let's take about 10 to 15 minutes to bring on an individual who just got his first deal. We won't even take maybe 15. We'll just kind of run through a little bit of the deal, how he found the deal, like what he learned from it, kind of his experience, and yeah, we just want to bring to you guys more just real life people that are doing this for the first time, guys. This is somebody who legitimately was doing this for the first time, his first deal, and we want to give you guys that relatability that there are people out here that are doing this for the first time. So, hey, Roden, can you hear us, brother?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. I'm glad your audio sounds good. Oh my gosh, that's the worst, trying to help somebody get their audio together. So it's good.
All right.
You got it worked out. Heck yeah. How you feeling, man? How you feeling?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you being on. Got Vaughn here, my co-host, good friend of mine, good family friend of mine, and
what's
man, we
going on,
wanted to bring
Roden?
you on because, dude, you literally just did your first deal, and we are
Yep.
so excited. So I know you and I talked about it a little bit. I want to definitely let Vaughn just kind of ask some questions to you about it, and you just kind of share your journey, like learning from not knowing anything about wholesaling to get started. We got about 10 minutes here, and we'd love to hear your story. So.
Yeah, man. Like,
Yeah.
I wrote a what
Man. I
first
yeah.
first and foremost, dude. Before we get started, dude, how does it feel, man? How does it feel?
Oh, it feels great, man. It's amazing. It just really shows that this business does work. I mean,
Hey.
I listened to Miles. He walked me through a lot of stuff. I know I bother him a lot of the times. Messages,
That's what we're here
calling,
for.
but it really
Yep.
happened.
Yep. You're not bothering me at all, brother.
Awesome, man. Well, tell us a little bit about the deal and how it feels. How it changed your life. How did this first deal flip your life?
All right, so basically, I found the deal through PropStream. Going through the mentorship with Miles. Reached out to the individual, ended up being the wife. We ended up talking for a while, developed a good, pretty much a rapport, talking about dogs, house, a lot of different things. And then, we were talking about the house. And she's like, yeah, we bought it through a tax auction, so we'd be willing to sell it. They're not really don't have enough time to sit back and really fix it up like they would want to. So I was like, okay, cool, great. Reach out to Miles. Miles was able to help me find a buyer. Came down to it where we got everything signed and everything was going to go through, and then title came back, and they needed to find the original owner because it was bought through a tax lien. And I was like, damn.
It's like, and actually real quick, and let's just so because a lot of the listeners too are sort of brand new or learning how to get started wholesaling, kind of trying to figure this out as well. So just so you guys understand kind of the scope of what's going on is, so like, when Rona said he found a deal through PropStream, so PropStream is a software where you legitimately, there's so much, I mean, there's so many things PropStream does, but number one, you can literally put like a city and state, and it will pull up all the addresses in that city state, and then you can filter out exactly what you want. You could pull lists. So when we say pull list, we're saying we're filtering out who we're targeting, as a market who we're trying to approach about whether or not they want to sell their property or not. That's what that means, to pull that list of data. So we can look for vacant absentee properties, owner occupied properties, tax liens, pre foreclosures. You can pull those specific lists in any city state around the country. So he found this deal, looking for really, I guess it was a tired landlord. Which, if you guys are looking for tired landlord, or was it a vacant absentee property? Which
It
one
was a
was it?
vacant absentee.
So vacant absentee property on PropStream, and he called what he originally thought was the owner, but that's why he said it was the wife of the owner, right? And the pain point that they had was they just don't have the time to fix this property up, guys. So they own this vacant property, and what it means to be an absentee owned is kind of what it sounds, is like the owner is absent from the property. So they own it, but they don't live there, and it's vacant. No one lives there. So you guys understand, when you have a home, some people are like, oh wow, you inherited this property, that's amazing. Honestly, not to everybody. Sometimes you can inherit a property or own a property, and it's just sucking money out of your bank account, right? Because if you don't have someone in the property or a way to produce income from the property, then it is actually a liability. It's not something where you're profiting on, where it's an investment. And you got property taxes, you got to maintain the property, all these things are expenses. So they know they're basically just losing money every month the longer they hold on to this thing, and that's why they wanted to have this conversation with Rhoda. And so, just to move forward a little bit more, when he says that they got everything signed, what he means is they got the contract. He got the contract signed with the seller on a price that they both agreed to. So they had a conversation about what that price was, what would make sense, and how, actually, maybe talk a little bit about that, Rhoda, real quick. Is like, was it pretty simple? Were you just like, yeah, this, we could take it for 50K, and they're like, all right, cool, 50K, or was there a little bit of negotiation? Kind of like, how did that go about?
Well, it was a little bit like, because originally I think they were talking about 60. No, they were talking about 50. And I talked to her a little bit, and she was like, you know what? We'll let it go. We can negotiate it, and we got it down to 40.
Okay.
Because we were looking at the ARVs and all that stuff, and they had several properties, and they really just like, okay, we do this one, because they really just don't want to have to deal
Right.
with it anymore.
Right. Right.
Um,
In ARV, and so what Rowan means ARV is the after repair value. So he spent some time on PropStream, Zillow. You could use Zillow for free. If some of you guys don't have PropStream, you can use PropStream if you're using that. But you basically can look at other homes that are similar to this home and look at what they're selling for on the market to give you an idea of what this property would sell for if it was totally renovated as well. And it allows you to back into what you offer the seller. There's an equation, right, called basically finding the maximum allowable offer. So sometimes you'll hear people say the Mayo, maximum allowable offer. It's what you should offer a seller based on the ARV, multiplying it by zero point 0.7, which is 70% of that ARV. So let's say a house totally renovated would sell for $100,000. When you multiply it by zero point 0.7, now you're at 70 grand. That's basically what an investor would want to be all in. A lot of times as investors, if we buy a property and we renovate a property, we don't want to be really more than like 70% of that overall value for a number of reasons. Number one, you want to make a profit, right? But number two, sometimes as a pivot on your exit strategy, let's say you bought this house and you were going to flip it, but then maybe it's just not selling on the market the way you thought, and you said, you know what, let's hold on to this. Let's turn this into a rental. A lot of times when you go refinance or go to a lender, they're going to give you 70% of that overall value, so you could actually refinance, get that money from a lender to pay off your private money lender or whoever else you used or whatever you used to buy the property and fix it up, and then now you could hold on to that property for a long term. So basically being 70%
Yep.
in the deal is always usually a more safe, investable route when you're buying real estate properties. But anyway, he then subtracted what was like a rough estimation on what the property was going to need in terms of repairs. And I think it was like a full rehab. So we just did like a full $50,000, $60,000 rehab. It was going to need a full rehab. And then that was a number that we got to where he's saying about that 50 to 40,000 as a buy price
Mhm.
for you guys to go under contract. So they signed the contract. And then lastly, we then found a buyer to buy the property for a little bit more. And I think what we were under contract because yeah, what were we under contract for, and what was the buyer
We were on the contract with 40 and we assigned
40?
to 50.
So we were under contract for 40, and we were going to sell for 50. So guys, imagine that you were under contract for $40,000, having a conversation with someone who already wants to sell this because they don't have any income coming from it. They already need to sell it, but they don't want to hire a realtor. It's an ugly home. They don't want to get it, sale ready or on the market, or they don't want to have to deal with it. So you're adding value to them by being able to give them the opportunity to sell to an investor, right? To someone who would want to maybe fix and flip it because maybe you're not at the position where you could actually buy the property yourself. So you go under contract for $40,000, and then you go find an in buyer, and then they can buy that property for anything above $40,000, and that would be your profit. So we found someone that was willing to buy it for $50,000. So that's a $10,000 profit, right? Of what
Mhm.
literally you had it under contract with for the seller and what the contract is for the buyer. And you didn't have to buy the property. Sometimes you don't even have to go see the property if you really can get resourceful and maybe get someone down there to go take photos and things like that. So, and a lot of times you won't even see the seller or the buyer because you don't have to even be at closing. So it's a really virtual experience that's really, really awesome. But then lastly, just to touch on what he said is title came back. So what happens when you find that buyer or when you go under contract with the seller, you want to run title on this property. What it means to run title is basically the title company or closing attorney, depending on whatever state you're on, they're going to do a search to find out what kind of liens are associated with this property. Maybe there's some child support liens. Maybe somebody didn't pay child support. Maybe there's some kind of tax lien. They didn't pay their taxes.
And it
Whatever
happens a lot
situation
more
might
than you
be,
think it would.
and it happens a lot more than you think it would, where there's some
Yep.
random lien. Guys, you could actually have a contractor lien, like you didn't pay the freaking
Mhm.
painter or the guy who's supposed to do your floors, and he puts a lien on that property. There is some kind of lien that has to get worked out. But long story short, they ran title to figure that out, and the sellers bought this property at a tax auction. Now we're not going to go into a crazy in-depth version of what that means because we don't have that much time right now. But long story short, we had two options. We could either run what's called a quiet title action, and it's just a process that allows for the closing attorney or the title company to be able to basically insure the title so that an investor could buy it and not have any issues come back on them later. They get a clear title that was insured by that closing attorney or title company. You run a quiet title action, and that could take honestly, it could take a number of months. So we weren't that excited about that, but the second option was we find the original defaulting taxpayer, so the original person who didn't pay their taxes and got the property sent to a tax auction to be sold. We have to find that person wherever in the heck in the world they are and get them to sign a piece of paper stating that they would be willing to like basically relinquish themselves from the property, right? So we could touch
Right.
on that a little bit, Roden, kind of what that experience is like, because I know, oh my gosh, you didn't know you were going to be an FBI agent when you got started in real estate investing, but that's basically what ended up happening.
Right. So, you, Matt, and I, we talked about it for a while, and then Matt did a true person search and found an address, which he eventually went out to and determined that that person doesn't even live there. Nobody knows that person, ever heard of that person. So it was like, damn. So then we had to go back, and I went back, did some more research, found another address that Matt was gracious enough to drive out to again. Nobody answered the door,
Oh my gosh.
and was like, okay, cool. So then I did some more research, finally found a relative of the previous owner, which was her son. Called the son. He answers. First of all, he's like, "How did you get my number?" Like, hey man, talk about that right now.
Don't worry about that.
Just like, man, I just went through, public records, found your name, whatever. I just need to get in contact with your mom about the property that about the property. He was like, "Yeah, that's my grandmother's property." It's like, cool. And I was like, "Hey, can you have your mom call me, or can you give me your mom's number?" He gave me his mom's number. He also called her, told her to call me, and eventually she called me because I called her. She didn't answer. Then later that day, she called me, and we spoke for a little bit. I told her about why I was getting in contact with her for, And she was like, okay. And then she disappeared for like 3 days. So then I called her again. Like I've been calling her for like 3 days now, just trying to get information from her because I needed her email address. Because now I had her telephone number, but I need her email address. And then remember we had sent it over to the closing attorney, but they couldn't get in contact with her either.
Yes. So basically, this was like a span of like two weeks or 3 weeks. It was a lot of just kind of stalling. Like this
Yeah.
person wasn't answering, and we were trying to reach out, and then we finally got the information we needed. We sent it out finally to the closing attorney, and then they try to reach out to kind of finalize a date for her to come in and sign paperwork, and then she just didn't answer. They couldn't get in touch with her for another couple of days, and then we tried to follow back up with her. It was a lot, guys, because remember, you were trying to convince someone who basically couldn't afford to pay their taxes on a home they owned, and that house literally went up for auction. Like, this isn't like the most, I mean, you know what I mean? This is, you're not like asking someone on a date. Like, this is not a happy kind of experience where your house went out on auction and now someone's coming back to you and say, hey, can you sign this piece of paper so I can buy this thing? you know um so just to fast forward a little bit, because we're running out of time, is long story short, we got in touch with the seller, and basically what we ended up doing, wrote in to help convince this person to sign over, is we
Awesome.
encouraged her and told her that we would pay her $1,000 to be able to
Yeah.
sign over the sheet. Which, by the way, did she get that money? Did she get paid?
Yeah, I sent her the money.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Cool.
I was like, I mean, I can't do that.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
helped me.
yeah. Right.
Though, like, it took a while to get it because before, without telling us that she didn't have a printer, she never told us she didn't have a printer. So then we had to, so then we had to
Yeah.
set up go to the closing attorney's office to sign the paperwork. But I was like, you know what, maybe this will help her get a printer now. She'll
Yeah,
be okay.
that's so funny. Right. So yeah, guys, you got to get creative. Because think about it. It's not about what you're having to give up. It's about what you're going to gain. And the reality is, even if you're going to make like $5,000, which is $5,000, man, but you had to help, or you had to give that seller $1,000 to get the deal done, you don't want to look at it as I could have made five, but I had to pay someone 1,000. How do you want to look at it? You want to look at it as I made $4,000. I like printed $4,000. Like, I literally didn't have to show up to a job. I didn't have to clock in, clock out. I didn't have to build a computer. I didn't have to freaking work on a car at an auto mechanic shop. I didn't have to, dude. I talked to someone and I got them to sign a piece of paper for an investor buyer to be able to buy this house and do what they want to do. And I made $4,000, doing that. Never seeing the house. You never saw the house. You never saw the seller, and you
No.
definitely never saw the buyer. You never even left your freaking bedroom. You could have been on the toilet the entire time doing this, and no one would have ever known or cared, and you would have made $4,000. So anyway, you guys know I'm always fired up, and hopefully you guys are laughing on the other end. But the reality is guys, this is such a powerful, incredible type of business. But the reality is, it's not always easy. There are challenges, but as investors, that's our job, is to find solutions for those challenges. And they're not problems, right? They're not problems. We just call them a challenge, and we crush challenges in this game. So anyway, Ronan, man, we appreciate you sharing your journey on this, guys. Again, Ronan, this was his first deal, and we're excited about him, and we're already working on a number of other deals, guys. This is the beauty of real estate investing, is it's important. Find a mentor, find someone who can help. I can only imagine if Roden tried to do all that himself with no one to help him through any of that, and just try to figure out.
Yeah, it was like really great having you and the community because I mean,
Yes,
I don't live in South Carolina, so
right.
having Matt drive to multiple locations in Columbia was amazing. Like,
Amazing.
I really appreciated that. Yeah.
Yes. So
Awesome
reach out to
stuff, Roden.
Vaughn, reach out to me, guys. Whatever we can do to help you, we will. So yeah, guys, we're excited.
Yeah, man,
We
Roden.
appreciate you tuning in to this episode, and man, we're gonna keep bringing you guys value. We're gonna keep bringing you guys, content on how to actually build your real estate investing business from the ground up. Because Vaughn and I both did that. We weren't. I don't even know if that's a term. Investor babies. It's not like our parents were, buying up land and buying up, properties, and we weren't some investor babies where it just got. And there's nothing wrong with, obviously. I mean, heck, my kids are obviously gonna, they're going to be investor babies. Not that anything's just going to be handed to them right away.
Mine
Obviously,
too,
they're going to
yeah.
learn how to build and invest. Right. But we definitely started from ground zero and had no idea. So we are here to help you guys In the same way, flip your life wherever you are, whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter. We were both in two completely different parts in our lives, and this real estate game completely just flipped our lives around, and it's just such a blessing. So anyway, any last words, Vaughn, before we wrap this thing up?
No, man, that's awesome stuff from Roden, man. He's just getting started. Expect to
It's
have him
crazy.
on a couple times over the next couple years, man. And yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
appreciate you guys listening. Once again, it's episode 5, and we're just getting started, right? Not only have we built our
yes.
businesses from the ground up, we're building this podcast from the ground up, and we're just getting started, and the sky's the limit, baby.
Amen, amen. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Can't stop, won't stop. Where the brakes at? I give him that ditty bop.